Today I'm going to share an insight about procrastination and meditation. Let's start with procrastination as a segue into meditation. Imagine a linear line that goes from left to right, and on the far left is the initial time when you conceive of something that has to be done. And on the far, far right is the absolute deadline when it has to be done by. We live in a culture of constant procrastination. We conceive of something, but we don't do it until the absolute last minute when it has to be done. Now, why is that? It's because we really have no motivation to do the thing. It's because we really don't want to do the thing, but we're told that we have to. It's not in line with our values, with what we want to be accomplishing in our lives, but we realize that we're being told that we have to do it anyway. Therefore, we put it off until the very, very last possible minute before it absolutely has to be done. And if there's no deadline of when it absolutely has to be done, then we don't do it. The healthier response to begin putting thought energy into the thing at the very moment that it's conceived of. That doesn't necessarily mean taking action right away, but as soon as you conceive of the thing, put thought energy into it, and then somewhere in the middle of that graph, between conception and deadline, do it in the middle way, as with everything. But only things that are consistent, complementary with our overall life view, life values, life goals, trajectories can be accomplished in a healthy way along that spectrum. Otherwise, we're just going to keep putting it off. Now on to meditation. Meditation is a multi-step process, and we mean a whole bunch of things by this. Meditation is really just simply no more than the process of getting in touch with yourself, knowing who you are. But there's a couple steps along that trajectory. Number one, the gateway into meditation is silence your mind. Sit in stillness. Now, what does that mean? That means if you really pay attention to your thoughts, you realize that there's a whole menagerie of monkey-minded chatter that's going on in your brain at all times, all the time, blah, blah, blah. You're telling yourself this, you're telling yourself that. All these thoughts are rattling around in your head, things that I have to do, things that I don't want to do, things that I'm putting off doing, and we get overwhelmed. That's the monkey mind, going around in circles and circles and circles, thinking constantly about the things that we don't want to do, thinking about why we have to do them, how we don't want to do them, all of that chatter. Meditation step one, eliminate the chatter. Meditation number two, step number two, is when you eliminate the chatter, then you start realizing what the chatter is actually pointing at, what it's actually saying. So if you have an obsessive thought process that's coming through into your conscious mind as chatter, and you meditate on eliminating the chatter, you will realize that the chatter is not actually, at its core, an analysis of all of the things that you think that you're thinking about. The analysis is actually that your mind is caught in this loop of thinking about things over and over and over again because you really don't want to do them. So only when you eliminate all of the obsessive thought processes surrounding the things that you don't want to do you realize that the obsessive thought processes only emerge in the context of things that you don't want to do. So then, you can begin to realize, what do you really want to do? And then begin to take action steps so that the things that you're being asked to do and the things that you want to do become in alignment with each other. So the first step of meditation, recognize that there's monkey chattering. Then, eliminate the monkey chattering. Next step, realize what the meta message of the monkey chattering is pointing to. Then the next step, Realize what you'd rather be doing instead of the things that you're being told that you have to do. And then put thought energy into how to create your life, your reality around the seminal concept that you want to be doing what you want to be doing, and find a way to make that the substance of your life. Find a way so that the things that you don't want to be doing do not arise in day-to-day existence. And only the things that you fundamentally do want to do that align with your inner core, do those. Begin living a life that brings those to the forefront, the foreground, and asks you to do the things only that you wish to truly be doing, that are aligned with your soul's trajectory. So said another way, meditation is the process first, and it all comes back to this, eliminating the chatter. And after you eliminate the chatter, you can realize that you're on a path that's not consistent with the path that you want to be on. And then begin taking action steps to getting on the path that you want to be on. Now, all of this is not actually deep meditation. All of this is simply paying attention to your thoughts and paying attention to yourself and paying attention to your life. We live in a culture where we're taught habitually to ignore these types of thought processes. Don't pay attention to yourself. Do what you're told. The gateway into meditation is eliminating all of these layers of being told what to do and doing that. The gateway in is realizing that these things are not in alignment with your true self. Meditation really doesn't begin until after you've accomplished all of these pre-steps. After you, this what I've talked about so far, let's call that, those are the multiple steps of phase 1 of entering into meditation. It's eliminating all of the surface, superficial crap that's in your brain. Phase 2 is kind of a continuation of phase 1. And we're still not into deep meditation. Phase 2 is getting beyond the specific things that I do or don't want to do in the present situation day to day, and thinking about my life in a larger context. Thinking about, not dwelling on, but thinking about, because this is important. This is another thing that people ignore, and it's necessary to no longer ignore this. To get into it, okay? And this is to say, how am I thinking about my life? Not specific actions in my life, but my life in general. What is the story that I'm telling myself about who I am, my past, where I came from, how I am the person that I am today? Where did all of these thoughts arise from? It's a story that you're telling yourself. Subconsciously, really, unawarenessly. That's not a word, but yes, it's a word in this context. You are unawarenessly telling yourself a story about who you are. When we bring awareness to that story, we can look at all of its elements and we can say, oh, I believe this because of this past experience that I had in my life. Oh, I believe this other thing because of this relationship that I have in my life. All of these things that we're telling ourselves stories about, we're not actually aware that we're telling ourselves stories. So phase 2 in meditation is to become cognizant, aware, to shine the flashlight of conscious attention onto the stories that we're telling ourselves so that we can question those stories. Are they actually real? Are those true stories? Well, they're not true stories. They're just made up. But are they in alignment with the stories that I wish to be telling myself? Is the way that I see myself, is the way that I see my life, the story that I'm telling about my life, consistent with the way that I want to be seeing my life, with the story that I want to be telling myself about my life? But we can't see the way that we really want to be conceiving of our lives in the presence of this veil, this obscurity, this fiction, these false stories that we're telling ourselves about our lives, which are the confluence not of what we really feel, but what others around us, culture, society, our families, people important in our lives, what they are telling us about our lives. And we're being hoodwinked, bamboozled into believing a story about our lives which is not consistent with the way that we see our lives. And the disconnect between how others are telling us to see our lives and the things that others are telling us we must do is inconsistent with what we really want to be doing. Our stories are in misalignment, and this creates anxiety, this creates depression, and this creates procrastination. When it comes to doing all the things that we're told that we have to do to continue living the story that other people tell us to do. So procrastination is actually our subconscious brain telling our conscious mind, I don't want to live this story anymore, and I'm going to not live it anymore. And your conscious brain doesn't have any power to override the decision of not living it anymore until there's a deadline, until it is forced into doing something that it has to do because an external force grants it an unwaverable deadline, and then it does the thing that it's been putting off, almost like it's being forced to do it. It is. It's being flogged, tied to a post and flogged, and it's saying, by cultures, do this thing or else we'll continue to flog you, and here's your deadline. And then the conscious mind acquiesces at the last minute and does it. And in so doing, it continues the very story which your subconscious mind does not want to continue anymore. But what you can be doing instead in meditation is becoming aware of all of these thought processes that are going on, so that the space of time in between conception of the thing that you're being told you have to do and the deadline of executing the thing that you have to do, in that whole space, instead of allowing the monkey mind to chatter on and on and on about why it doesn't want to do it, clear all the monkey mind chatter and get to the actual question, why don't you want to do it? And the real answer is because it's not consistent with my goals, values, and the story that I want to be seeing about my life. Okay, well, what is that story? Well, you can't see it because you have monkey mind chatter, which you're unaware of, which is telling you, weaving a story about your life, which is inconsistent with what you actually want to be doing with your life. So become aware of the story. Become aware of the chatter. Let's put it this way. Become aware of the chatter, which, when you're unaware of, gives you a subconscious story. Become aware of the chatter so that you become aware of the subconscious story. And then, when you see the story, it becomes very clear, this is not the story that I want to be telling myself. So then ask yourself, what is the story that I want to be telling myself? And then conceive in thought, what actions can I be taking that is consistent with living the story that I actually want to be telling myself? Conceive of that story, and then take actions that support it. And then you come to a place of peace. And in that peace, you begin to take actions that are consistent with the life that you want to be living. And when you begin taking actions that are consistent with the life that you want to be living, then you have completed phase 1 and phase 2 of this pre-meditation exercise, let's call it. Awareness of yourself is a key piece, but it's not actual meditation. Actual meditation arises only after you have achieved a certain modicum of peace that comes from taking actions in alignment with a story that's consistent with the life that you want to be living. And in that place of peace, we can actually begin meditation. A stillness, a coming to peaceness, a oneness with who we are, consistent with the life that we want to be living. Then we can go into meditation, and we can become aware of who we truly, really are and want to be, and what we're feeling on a deep, soulful level. And then, after we've completed all the steps of knowing who we really are, then we realize that we are not separate from the entire rest of the universe, of creation, that everything is all one. But this is an advanced trick of meditation. But not trick, no. The advanced practice of meditation. It is the thought that arises unbidden from the place of peace when your life becomes consistent with itself. But so long as you are living a life whose actions are inconsistent with the story that you want your life to be, it is impossible to achieve this level of peace that allows meditation to actually exist, to arise. Deep meditation is deep stillness and deep acceptance about who you are and where you are and what you're doing. It's accepting that. It's an alignment that what you're doing is what you want to be doing. And insofar and so long as there are significant pieces of your life which are inconsistent on a soulful way with what you really want to be doing, then achieving deep, peaceful stillness meditation is impossible. Because you are vibrating against what you are doing. And the self, the subconscious being who you really are, is protesting at a deep fundamental level. This is not right, it says all the time. This is not right. And because we are not aware, because of the monkey mind, of how this is not right, of how much this is not right, it results only in a monkey chattering mind and actions of procrastination. Become aware. One of the other ways to look at meditation is that it's creating a gap between stimulus and response so that we don't have to continue acting in a way that we've always been conditioned to act when certain conditions arise. We can put a gap there. It's a mindful pause, asking ourselves, when this thing occurs, whatever this is, somebody yells at you, for example, do I have to respond with anger? Can I go within? Can I create a pause between the action that other person has taken and my response to that action? It's putting a pause in there. So on a higher plane of existence, let's say, the deeper use of meditation is to put a pause, not in individual reactions to different situations, but put a pause in your entire life. It's noticing that when I feel that I'm procrastinating, it's putting a pause in there and saying, why am I procrastinating? Well, it's because this thing that I'm procrastinating doing is something not that I just don't want to do, but something whose doingness of it is actually going against the fundamental me-ness of me. When we get into a state of self-awareness, a gateway into meditation, we become aware that these things that we're procrastinating are not things that we really want to be doing. So put thought energy then into creating a system to stop doing them and to do other things instead that are of tremendous value to who you really are. All of these things go together, and they arise mutually. Realizing, silencing the chatter, realizing why it is that you don't want to be doing the things that you're doing, because they're not consistent with the real you, and then asking yourself, well, who is the real me? And then saying, what do I want to do instead? And then living a life that's doing those things, and then achieving peace, contentment, stillness, and then peace at last. Then we can enter into meditation. And meditation arises of itself. There is nothing that you have to do to achieve a state of meditation. There is only things that you have to realize that are preventing you from getting into that state. And aligning your life with what you want your life to be creates a state of daily mindful, walking, living meditation.